Let's jump right into this explainer and take a close look at a digital battlefield that most of us never even see. It's a space where the weapons cost literally millions of dollars, and the targets? Well, they're some of the most vulnerable people on the planet. Today, we're unpacking the escalating arms race between Apple's security engineering and the shadowy, high-stakes world of mercenary spyware. We're going to explore what these threats actually are, who's in the crosshairs, and the extreme measures you'd have to take to shield your digital life from an almost invisible enemy.
To kick things off, consider this pretty jarring news hook. We've been seeing an unusually massive wave of high-confidence threat notifications hitting Apple users globally. As Zach Whitaker, the cybersecurity editor at TechCrunch, recently pointed out, the sheer volume of these alerts is hitting unprecedented levels. And honestly, it's a massive wake-up call. It tells us that, despite intense public scrutiny and heavily tightened device security, the use of highly invasive spyware isn't slowing down at all. In fact, it's proliferating rapidly.
Section 1. The Threat Matrix. Understanding mercenary spyware. Let's make sure we really grasp what's attacking these devices.
Right off the bat, we need to be clear. This is not your run-of-the-mill computer virus. When we talk about mercenary spyware, we are talking about exceptionally well-funded operations. These are highly sophisticated cyber attacks that literally cost millions to develop and deploy. Apple notes that these attacks are usually tied to state actors and private firms, like the NSO Group, who build these tools on their behalf. And because tech giants are relentlessly patching vulnerabilities, these million-dollar exploits have a super short shelf life. Attackers have to use them incredibly fast and with surgical precision before the window closes.
If you compare your standard criminal hacker to these mercenary operators, the difference is basically night and day. Regular cybercriminals are in it for a quick buck, right? They cast a massive, cheap net hoping someone, anyone, clicks a bad link. But mercenary spyware flips that entirely on its head. The motivation here is state-sponsored surveillance. The target list is microscopic, sometimes just a handful of specific individuals. And the cost to deploy? It's astronomical, easily running into the hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars.
Moving on to Section 2, the human target, beyond the code. Let's step back from the software and look at who is actually in the crosshairs. Academic research paints a really disturbing global picture here. Experts are calling this the era of the digital dictatorship. The people being targeted by these incredibly expensive tools aren't usually CEOs or celebrities. They're journalists, human rights defenders, and political dissidents. These are folks who rely on the internet to expose corruption or advocate for reform. State authorities buy this spyware to silently hijack their devices, suck out their most sensitive data, and completely map out their professional networks. And the fallout goes way beyond just stolen data. Researchers argue that this technology actually transforms the internet, which should be an empowering tool, into a massive vulnerability for activists. But here's the most chilling takeaway. The psychological trauma inflicted on the victims, it's not an accident. It's not just an unfortunate byproduct of being hacked. The research identifies that psychological toll as a deliberate, primary strategic objective. It's a form of weaponized abuse, engineered specifically to neutralize dissent and silence public discourse. Section 3. The alarm bells. How Apple notifies targets. So, how on earth do you know if a multi-million-dollar invisible weapon is pointed at you? Over 150. That is the number of countries where Apple has had to send out threat notifications since 2021. Just let that sink in for a second. It highlights the truly global, relentless nature of these attacks. Apple actually relies entirely on its own internal threat intelligence investigations to spot this stuff. Interestingly, they purposefully don't name specific attackers or countries in their alerts. Why? Because giving away too much intel would literally help the spyware developers adapt their code to evade detection the next time around. So if Apple's systems flag that you're being targeted, here is the exact sequence of what happens. First, an unmistakable Apple threat notification takes over your lock screen and pops up right inside your settings. Second, you get a formal email from threat notifications at email.apple.com. And finally, there's a permanent banner plastered across the top of your Apple account page online. They make absolutely sure you cannot miss it. Now, this is absolutely crucial, so please keep this in mind. Genuine Apple threat notifications will never, and I mean never, ask you to click a link, open a file, or hand over your password. Opportunistic scammers know these alerts exist, so they frequently try to use fake ones as phishing bait. If you do get a real alert, Apple strongly advises you to get expert help immediately, specifically pointing users toward the emergency security assistance offered by the nonprofit access group, Access Now. Section 4. The Digital Bunker. Entering lockdown mode. If you are caught in this crazy wave of alerts, how do you actually shield yourself? When you engage lockdown mode, your device essentially stops being a normal smartphone. Normal operation is all about seamless connectivity, rich web features, all that good stuff. But lockdown mode, it's an extreme, optional defense. It aggressively shrinks your attack surface by strictly limiting apps, websites, and features that spyware usually exploits. Suddenly, most message attachments are blocked, web pages might look broken because complex fonts are disabled, and FaceTime calls from unknown contacts just won't come through at all.
Honestly, think of this not just as a settings toggle, but as retreating into a digital bunker. You're sacrificing everyday convenience for pure survival. Smart home invites, blocked. Shared photo albums, gone. And the location data is completely stripped from your images. Your phone will flat out refuse to join non-secure Wi-Fi, and it literally turns off 2G and 3G cellular support to stop attackers from exploiting older, weaker cell towers. It even blocks the installation of configuration profiles so malicious management software can't take root on your device.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you pondering the incredible tension here. On one side, we're carrying consumer devices built with truly unprecedented layers of security and extreme lockdown features. But on the other side, we've got highly motivated state-sponsored actors with effectively bottomless budgets, constantly hunting for the tiniest cracks in the armor. If it costs them millions of dollars just to bypass the phone in your pocket, are we permanently locked in an unwinnable digital arms race? It's definitely a chilling thought, and one that is absolutely going to shape the future of our digital privacy. Thanks for joining me today, and definitely keep your shields up.